Hi there, ladies and gentlemen. Hugh here, the Builder's Office. Now, if you don't know what the Builder's Office podcast is all about, here's what it all is. It's a podcast just for homeowners and the homeowners to get the best possible outcome from any project that they may be doing. So join me as I dive into something that's even more fun each week. So my name's Hugh, this is the Builder's Office, as I've already said. So I'm covering things probably twice, 3 times, may even go over the same topics probably 100 times, but the topics are gonna be relevant, it doesn't matter when I'm talking about them. So we'll go over this. So now today, episode 30. Last week I was discussing the red flags when it comes to home, discovering what your builder's gonna be like. So we know that there's some red flags out there, and I do apologise if the audio is a little bit echoey. This house has just been plastered, so with nothing else in here, it's pretty echoey. So I apologise for that. Hopefully it's not too bad though. So what we know, there's green flags, there's red flags. Discovering what your builder's going to be like is probably one of the biggest challenges that we all have when it comes to a home ownership and anything that we might be doing. So last week covered the red flags, and yes, I probably need to do another episode covering some more red flags as I'm discovering that I could have covered a little bit more. I did have a long episode last week. This week, hopefully it won't be quite as long, and discovering more about the green flags. So green flags, let's start off with this. So I am trying to keep it upbeat because, look, at the end of the day, we want things to be good. We don't want things to be bad. So I'll try and keep it that way. Take a little bit of a segue away from building, let's just say, but it's still relevant. And because, look, we do know that we learn more from the bad things that happen, and not necessarily always the good things do we learn the best lessons from. So that's why red flags, we needed to start on that one last week. Green flags, we'll just get into this because look, there's really good things that we can learn from it, but you can't have the good without the bad. The yin, the yang, and yeah, it's there all the time. So we've got to have all of that. So balance, when it comes to it, we've got to have the green stuff. And so where do we go from here? So I'll try to get through this as quick as possible, make this as punchy and as good as possible that we can get. So while there are different types of builders out there, last week I did discuss the differences between the volumes, the large and small volumes, and custom home builders, and what some of the negatives are with that. But when we're talking about the green stuff, when it comes to volumes, all right, so let's start with big volume builders. All right, green flags with them. All right, so back to my not trusty notepad, and let's get into this. So what did I start with here? My goodness. I wrote all this up, and as I've been writing it, some of it does get a little bit confusing for myself. So volumes, is cost a green flag or a red flag? I think we'll just leave that one there because that can be both, and might have to touch on that one in another episode. So let's leave that there. Generally speaking, display homes for being able to represent the homes on offer and put plans into perspective. So while I did put a post out on Instagram, and yes, Builder's Office is on Instagram, it is on socials, it's probably going to start getting into a few other things, but if you want to stay up to date with all of the really good content that we can bring out on a weekly basis and join in the discussion about it, then definitely jump on Instagram, and you can get in contact with me through there as well. Probably a lot easier than even just sending an email. So just putting that one out there. So display homes, yes, there's some good points to it. There's probably red and green flags when it comes to display homes. So we'll discuss that in another episode as well. Because yeah, look, the good stuff that comes to display homes is that you do get a really good feel for the home. And that's a good thing, because at the end of the day, you want to know if the home's going to be the right size for you, because look, there isn't necessarily the best opportunity when you're looking at a set of plans to be able to visualize it if you're not visually inclined. Because look, at the end of the day, we know that there are different operating types when it comes to our brains. Some people are visual, some people are spatial, all these sorts of things. So they're not necessarily always going to be able to get the best representation from what's essentially a 2D drawing on a piece of paper. So that's where display homes really, with the volume builders, can really help, and they are a positive. Won't get into the negatives on that, so we'll leave that for another time. But when it comes to the cost representative stuff that comes into deciding on a builder as well, is because we know that cost value proposition that comes from any kind of building, there is going to be that into it. So how does that work with the volume builders? So volume builders, yes, their costs can appear to be better. Doesn't necessarily always mean that they are. Now, I'm not going to get into too much of that because at the end of the day, yeah, it can be quite challenging to discern what the differences are between the costs of a volume builder versus other builders. But they can represent these costs very quickly for you. And that is, in a lot of ways, that's a green flag, because when you go to other builders, let's just say, they might not be able to have a list of their costs involved, and this is where the volume builders really have that sort of thing nutted out, and it is a green flag, is because they have built so many houses, they know the costs, they know what's going on with it. Now, that's not taking into account some of the volume builders that have gone under because of the rising costs that have happened over the last couple of years. But that is a huge advantage, because most other builders, most small builders, they don't have a cost price list that they can just call out, jump into a little bit of software, and then when somebody's asking for a particular product or service or anything like that to be added into their home, they can't do that relatively quickly like a volume builder can, because the volume builders do have that option right up front. So that's positive. And that flows into the next bit, which is the speed. And we know that volume builders, they do build quickly. There are some trade-offs to that speed, but it is that green flag that you can get things relatively quickly with a volume builder, and that goes from the first time that you speak to them through to their process of getting doing all their pre-construction stuff right through to the actual build itself. That can happen relatively quickly. They've got the processes in place. They've got the people that can actually go and do all these things. They have the contacts to do all of that stuff really quickly. So that is a green flag. And yeah, like I was saying, everything's documented, because they've built so many of the homes, and their designs are pretty much stock standard, sort of like building a car. Because that's all documented, you can do it relatively quickly. So there are some positives to that. And they definitely should be providing all the steps in their process to you. And if you're not sort of seeing that, that'd be a red flag. So we'll sort of try not to give the volume builders too much of a hard time, but there are green flags to volume builders. So don't discount it. And being able to sort of see what options that there are out there definitely gives you the benefit of being able to at least not be pigeonholed into doing one thing. So let's jump into the small volume builders. So generally speaking, small volume builders, they have a lot of the same traits as the large volumes, because at the end of the day, they are endeavoring to get to a point and scale to become a large volume builder. And don't discount that. Most builders, doesn't matter whether they're custom, volume, high end, low end, whatever they may be doing, yes, it's something that they're always striving to get up to that level. And they may not have all of the processes in place that a large volume builder does, because they don't have the personnel or anything like that, but they're still striving towards it. So generally speaking, they do have a lot of the things that the large volumes have in place, And you should be able to see that relatively quickly and easily as well. So display homes, that sort of thing, they will have that. And one of the real positives with a smaller volume builder is that you do have the options to do a little bit more customization, where you may not necessarily have that with the large volumes, because the large volumes have the processes in place, but the ability to customize things might be a little bit more difficult. Whereas with a smaller volume, there's a little bit more flexibility there. They have a little bit more of a personal touch with their clients as well, which to me is a really big plus. And you should be getting that more personal touch with your builder. And if you can get a more personal touch, it's going to be a massive green flag. That's where some of the smaller volumes, they do get that benefit. And you will be speaking with the building company owner, and generally the person who has the registration as the builder, probably a little bit more often and probably a little bit earlier in the process as well. While you might go through a sales process with a salesperson or someone who's not necessarily the builder, not the registered builder, you will eventually be able to get to speak to the builder, where you won't get that with the large volumes. Large volumes, the registered builder, he's off probably somewhere else, and you probably won't even see him. See them, I should say. And so once you get through a lot of that sales process, you will be meeting that builder. And that to me is a really big positive, because you really want to know who's going to be signing off on your house. And if you can have a relationship with them, massive green flag. They will also have a documented process for how you get from sales to build, and so on from there. You really want to know how that's going to be happening, and they should be able to provide that to you as well. So small volume builders, they generally will be very similar to large, but with a more personalized touch. And the more personalized touch to me is going to, it's definitely going to help you, because look, the experience at the end of the day, and when we start talking about custom home builders, the experience is the thing at the end of the day, because you should be able to go and speak to the other clients. And that's, before I even get into the small custom builders, because this transfers across to all the builders, is being able to speak to previous clients, all that sort of thing. One of the things that I always found with volume builders is that because there's not that personalized touch that you get with smaller builders, that's where you've probably found this, and you've probably heard the stories, that building with some of the larger companies, you end up being a number, not a person. And that can be a little bit true, and that goes into the red flag stuff that I did discuss last week. So when it comes to that little bit about the personalized touches and being able to speak to previous clients, when it comes to custom home builders, this is where they really sort of flourish, because they will be able to put you in touch with previous clients, instead of just being able to see previous works that you might see on a website, or previous projects or other houses down the street. Because look, there will be deficiencies with building projects, and volumes, they see things as a number, and they may not necessarily want you to be speaking to other clients. And that's very common. Whereas small custom home builders, I know of a couple where what they actually do, and you'll probably find this a little bit scary, but I find it to be a really good thing. They actually invite previous and new clients to home handovers. And if you've ever heard or seen, experienced anything like that, that is a massive, massive thing. Could you imagine you're looking at a house and you're looking at building, and a prospective builder says to you, why don't you come to a handover for a client and have a chat with them and see what their experience has been like? That to me is a massive green flag. If you can get that, wow. So custom small builders are not constrained by plans that are previously drawn up. So they're going to be able to work with you, and they have that flexibility to help you when it comes to all of that sort of thing. So you're not going to be constrained by just having one design or 5 designs, and that is going to be a massive green flag if you're looking for something that's going to be more suited for you. Understand, hey look, volume builders, they have set designs, and those set designs probably work for a lot of people because they don't want to go through the process of designing things up. If you are looking for something that is going to be more custom specific to you, that's when you're going to really want a custom home builder, where the green flags always stack up to say custom home builder will be able to design everything up and work with you. And generally they will be working with the designer as well and make it a lot easier to be able to get everything done. Good ones will have an amazing onboarding process for new people, new clients. And it'll all start from the first time you contact them. How prompt they are, how quickly they'll get onto you. Those are massive green flags because nobody wants to be sitting around waiting for people to get back to you. We all know that there are red flags of people not getting back to you in the building industry. We know that happens. So, good onboarding process. Now, controversially, we know that volume builders, predominantly, until you're sitting there signing a contract, you won't get charged. And if you do get charged, it'll be tiny little fees for possibly if you want to make a small change. Now, most custom home builders that I know at the moment, and small builders, they'll charge fees right from the get-go. Now, this will be for producing a quote or a proposal, doing pre-design work. Obviously, yeah, look, most professionals will charge a fee for all this sort of thing, so be prepared. And I see that as a positive because look, at the end of the day, we all need to know that someone's going to be doing the work for us. And can you imagine if you're not being charged, and this has come out in the woodwork with the volume builders going under, not charging for the services that are being provided can be a red flag. So we don't want to go down the red flag thing, but green flag if a builder is actually asking you for a fee to provide you with the estimations for your build. I see that as a positive thing because then at least you know they're going to be putting the time in real early with you to get the result that you want. This can also give you a little bit more of an intimate feel with your builder because they're going to be taking the time, middle of the day, instead of doing things at night, they're going to be spending that time in the middle of the day with you and phone calls, Zoom calls, meetings, going through your project. And to me, that's a really good thing and it's a green flag. So don't be hesitant when it comes to fees. Fees are a good thing. So the pre-construction process is completely mapped out and they'll be able to talk you through this and go over the whole lot. You really want that sort of thing, and I believe that you should have all of that presented to you so you know step by step, okay, we're going through this process, and I know with my company, I've got a pre-construction sequence where we go through, okay, pre-design, we know that we've got to get X, Y, and Z, and generally that's all going to be sort of project assessment stuff and all the preliminary stuff before we can actually start working on drawings. And it might even go down to like your building land surveying and getting all your titles and doing all that sort of thing. Because look, to start a design, we need all that. And then they'll run you right through to the point of being able to give you a quote and to be able to get a contract in place. So they should be able to map that out for you, show you that on paper or however they want to show you, and give you a presentation on that as well. And another good thing that you should be able to see straight away from the get-go is how well they can work with either, if you're taking in a set of plans, with your designer, with your engineer, with your building surveyor, all this sort of thing. They should be able to show that they can work with all these people. If they have their own, perfect. If they don't have their own in-house team that do this sort of thing, they should be able to work with these guys. And one of the things that you'll find out is certain people will work with other people really well and sometimes they won't. But good guys should be able to work with everybody, and to be, even if there are disputes or problems that do arise, because we know there are disputes and problems that happen with building all the time, they should be able to resolve it and have a system in place for resolving those issues as well. So that's where we're at. Now, I don't really want to take it much further than that at the moment. There will be more that does come out of this. I've gone through an entire page there with all my stuff for episode 30. So episode 30, green flags that you should be looking out for. If you'd like more information on that, definitely get in touch with me. You can get in touch with me through Instagram, through thebuildersoffice101@gmail.com. Drop us a line there, or you can get in contact with me through my building company, newrealmhomes.com.au, and we'll be able to chat. But I want to thank you for today, having a listen to this, having a watch, wherever it might be. Hopefully it's not too echoey and you are having a great Saturday. But thanks again. Love all you guys. I want to be able to do this more. So the more sharing, the more loving that we get, the more I'll be able to bring more of this to you. So look forward to it. Have yourselves a great weekend. Looking forward to seeing you next week, and there'll be something special. So take care, and we'll see you then. Thanks.